TFT TV, and I'm your host, Cheryl Martinez. Today, I'm honored to introduce the former model and now professional photographer, Emma Wainwright. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I have to tell you guys, Emma is actually a longtime friend as well, and I'm just so happy to have you on my show today because I've got to personally see and experience the evolution of your career, and I am just so proud of you of how far you've come and just everything you've done, and just and you've done it with grace and professionalism along the whole way. Why don't you tell the audience real quick a little bit about yourself, just so they can get a general idea of everything that I already know about you.
Sure. Well, I am from Scotland originally, born and raised, and my mother is South African, so I always had a multicultural vibe going on there. And then in my very early 20s, I moved to Hong Kong. I was there for 5 years, and I started working as a professional model. And I was fortunate enough to work for brands like Reebok, Levi's. I worked in Fashion Week. I pretty much did all the stuff that you kind of hope that you would get to do.
And dream for.
Yeah, I know. You like set your goals not thinking it's going to happen, and then you kind of check off your bucket list one by one.
Incredible.
And then I moved to South Africa to spend some time with my family out there, and I was there for a year. And then I moved to New York, and I've been here for 3 years.
Wow. Well, I can't believe how many different countries and places you've lived. Like,
Yeah.
that's incredible. I mean, you must feel so cultured and so diverse and so fortunate for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the term cultured is a complicated subject, but for sure, I feel privileged to have been able to participate in so many people's cultures.
Yeah.
It's not always the easiest thing, but I think it helps you grow and find yourself as a person, and it also helps to keep you humble because you have to adjust to them.
Absolutely.
And I mean, particularly when it comes to like the world of fashion and entertainment, and to be able to see things from multiple perspectives is incredibly helpful when you're trying to tell a story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, traveling and living in different countries have been probably the best experiences of my life. It's where I've grown the most as a person.
Absolutely.
And learned the most about myself and just about how big the world really is, and just all the different kind of people in the world, and it's really just opens my mind, body, and soul to just new experiences and new everything. And I just love traveling. The fact that you've not only like lived but worked in all these different areas just makes you that well-rounded of a human being and as an artist, and I think that's reflected in your work today. We're gonna put some photos up on the screen of some of your photography and some of the stuff that you're working on right now, and it's so beautiful and it's so unique, and you bring out so many different things like in your pictures that I feel like you take it from all of your your different life experiences.
Thank you.
So it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as an artist, you always hope to be able to bring your influences into your work. And also, I feel like when you bring in all those different elements, it helps to reach out to a variety of people, like a wider audience across the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've tried to incorporate all that stuff into my work, and for sure, seeing how different people feel and act, and even taking it to a simpler level, seeing the varieties in fashion and style and cultural beliefs and all those elements, I feel have really helped me grow as a person and as an artist.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the industry now. I know that there are a lot of aspiring models watching our show, and why don't you tell them how you got booked for these amazing major brands, right? And I know that a lot of girls, let's say, are maybe hesitant about working abroad, but always maybe was curious about it. How would they go about trying to get booked for modeling jobs abroad and being able to live and work abroad? Like, what is the process to get that done?
So I think the basis of getting booked for any job in the entertainment community is having a strong portfolio. And that doesn't necessarily mean to say you need to be already working for major brands, but I think it's about education and practice, and it's not enough.
The right photographer.
photographer, probably.
I know, if you want to build rapport, guys.
No, but seriously. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes I see models making today, from people who are just coming into the game all the way up to people who are already solidly working, is that being born looking a certain way is not enough. You have to practice, and practice can be anything from doing test shoots where you collaborate with other people so that you can test out the things you've been practicing, to just sitting at home in front of the mirror and practicing facial expressions and it's like acting. It's an art. Like, you have to convey the feeling that the shoot is asking for, the feeling the photographer, the creative director, the brand, the feeling they're asking for.
Yeah, and that's a good point you bring up, because I feel like there's a misconception out there about modeling. If you haven't done modeling yourself, you don't really know like how much art goes into being a model and doing a photo shoot, how much work it is for them. They're not just like, they think, oh, she's just posing in front of the camera. Like, no, like there's so much work that goes into being a model and producing, you know, giving that photographer and, you know, the right, you can say it better than me.
Character, right, the character. Yeah. And I mean, you'll do things like you'll do like lookbooks and things that pay the bills, and I mean, even in those things, maybe it's not so much about the theatrical side of modeling, but even then, like, you have to practice your poses, you have to look at we live in such a content-driven world these days. You know, you have Instagram, you have Google, you know, you have all these online magazines, there's media everywhere, there's inspiration everywhere and educational material everywhere. There are YouTube videos.
So you're saying like to stay current with the trends and stuff?
Right. And to look at what other models are doing. How are they posing? How are they finding the light?
And get inspiration from anywhere nowadays because of what we have access to.
Right. And it's an educational tool, and there's so much education out there that turning up, like, you're born looking the way that you look. The only job you have is to learn how to convey the message. And if you're not doing that, you're not really doing the job. So if you want to be a great model and you want to book the work, you have to put in the work to get, you know, you reap what you sow.
Absolutely.
And then other than that, it's just working at it all the time, getting your stuff out there. Like, models of this generation are so lucky that they do have ways to put their portfolio out there without necessarily having an agent. Like, social media these days is such an amazing platform to be able to put yourself out there. Learning how to utilize that and brand yourself is very important.
Yeah, you are your brand.
Right. And you're a business person. And at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of models out there who kind of just wing their way through it, and that works for some, but to give yourself a better chance at being successful, it's helpful to learn to run yourself like a business, which means networking, it means being in charge of your portfolios, marketing, you know, constantly reaching out to the agents you work with and sending them your new material. And that really, I think, counts for any artist.
Yeah. You know, Emma, what I think I've been the most curious about that I've been trying to ask you, and even throughout our friendship, I don't think I really ever dove into this with you, but what really made you want to make that transition? Like, I'm going to put some of her modeling photos up on the screen so you guys can see, and this girl was like supermodel status, right? Like, when you see her pictures and the level that she reached in her modeling career, that it's shocking, I'd say, to some people about why you would kind of like transform now to being on the other side of the camera, right? So what made you say, okay, I've become the best model I can be, and now I want to try out the other side? Like, how did that happen?
Right. That's a great question. So we live in a time that is changing now. Women are becoming more empowered. There's more support, and we're not there yet, but we're going there. But it wasn't just quite like that when I was going through the modeling industry. And so for me, as a young woman in my early 20s, having that experience where, I mean, there was like access to parties, and like, it was hard work, but people would be interested and focused on you, and that's a very empowering experience. And I was actually quite a shy young woman when I went into modeling. I kind of fell into it by accident, and So having that experience of people being willing to, I guess, pay attention to me, but not necessarily in like an attention-seeking way, but just having people willing to grant you an audience to be who you are, was really empowering for me. And so that was a great experience for a certain length of time. But then I think I actually outgrew the industry. Like I would hear models say, "Oh, I got too old," and in my arrogance, I was like, "Oh, they got too old. Like brands wouldn't hire them anymore." But then as I got older, I realized that for me, even though I probably could have modeled for another 5 or 10 years, um, I felt like I had grown so much as a person, particularly given the state of the industry at the time, that I had this need to be respected for the person that I was rather than something to hold up clothes and look glamorous.
Wow, wow.
And I had an urge to go out and create and to participate more. And I actually was very lucky in that I had a lot of photographers that I worked with a lot of the time, and they were very respectful and always treated me really well. And they would allow me input into how the shoot went and to how the character was built and to the final images and all those things. And that was a wonderful experience for me, but it also told me that I wanted to be more involved in the process.
Wow, wow.
So,
And I mean, so now being on the other side of the camera, would you say that you enjoy that more? Do you have a like not from a business perspective. I'm talking about from like, how it makes you feel like having fun wise.
yeah. No. Uh, I don't enjoy it more, but I don't enjoy it less either. I think that I got what I needed at the time, and I think that
Just ready for the next chapter
I
in
was
your
ready.
life.
Yes, and I think my needs changed as a person, as a woman, but even just as a person. And I think that there was a small period of time where I hadn't yet realized that, where it didn't feel good for me anymore. And the moment I realized that, it was like, okay, it's time to make a change. And I think that's important. I think our feelings tell us things for a reason. They tell us when it's time to grow, and it's very easy to ignore that for the state of what's comfortable. Because for sure, starting a new career is never an easy thing.
But I kind of think you've had a competitive edge though. Having been on both sides, you bring something else to your pictures and to your work that a lot of photographers don't have and will never have, right? Because you've seen both sides, so you know really what works and what doesn't, and how to bring out the best from how to inspire your models. I bet you're a very collaborative photographer.
Yes.
I would imagine. I mean, I hope one day like you'll want to shoot me, but I don't know if I'll be that lucky. This girl's like such a big photographer now. But because I bet like she can make my portfolio look 10 times better than it looks now. Like seriously, when you guys see this girl's work, you're gonna be shocked.
You're adorable.
But yeah, so I'm curious if the models that you work with ever like say anything like, wow, like working with you feels different than working in X, Y, and Z photographers, because they get maybe a little something extra from working with you.
Yeah, I do get that feedback quite a lot, and it's great feedback to have, It's always nice to hear that you make people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Particularly when I'm working with people who are new or less experienced, and they're maybe a little nervous, or they've never modeled before. I do often get that. I think what's most helpful about it is that like I practice what I preach. Like I put so much work into learning how to be a model, like how to work out different poses and incorporate movement and change my facial expressions. And so it is helpful because I know how to use my body and how to explain how to use their body in order for them to give me what I want. And even for very experienced models who can come onto the set and be like bam 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 and they've got it, like even then it's like it's nice for them to know, when I'm like, oh, just bring your face just a little closer to the camera, like they have trust in me that I'm giving them the best possible picture at all times. And I think that's important. I think there's a lot of trust there because it's hard, it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to trust somebody else to make you feel beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you know, the other thing I was thinking about, Emma, just like I'm trying to play in my head right now, like, have I ever shot with a female photographer? Like, I have done so many photo shoots, I wouldn't even begin to try to count, right? And I don't think I've ever, one. I just thought of one. It was like it was a sports bra fitness shoot or something, but she was like, you know, hired by the Browns. But I think it's kind of rare to find like female photographers in this industry. Like it's very male dominated. And do you think that it like hinders or helps you right now as a photographer?
I would say it does both. I think it hinders me sometimes because we have this perception, whether we're aware of it or not, we have this perception about what a professional looks like, particularly in certain industries. And the fashion industry is one of them. Media hasn't helped that. There's been a lot of like sort of movies and TV series where the main lead Lothario is like a fashion photographer and it's like always a guy. And I think women have this assumption that men are maybe a little more professional or a bit more common. I don't know, it's a funny one that, like, I've been in a room before where models have gone up to every single male photographer and introduced themselves, and I will be the only female photographer and the only person that they don't introduce themselves to. Yeah.
You know, that's shocking to me because as a female, I think I would prefer to shoot with a female over a male, especially because most of the shoots that I do are on the sexier side. So I think as far as a comfort level, I feel more comfortable like walking around with my thighs jiggling all over the place if it was in front of a woman instead of like a guy. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
So I would think that it would be great if there was more female photographers out there.
I agree. I think that if you ask women to think about it, like which one would they feel more comfortable with, their obvious choice would be another woman. I think that this is a subconscious thing that not necessarily everybody is aware of. But it's definitely there for sure. But I mean, we're in a good place right now where things are starting to change and women are becoming more empowered, and there is a rise in female photographers, particularly with social media, where women do have a platform to put their work out there into the world. But I mean, I would say that as much as it does hinder, sometimes it is also helpful because women do like to shoot with a woman, and even a lot of men like to shoot with a woman.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, all the guys, you can shoot all the guys. Yeah, because I doubt guys really want to have male photographers shooting them, especially if they're doing something like an underwear shoot or something, right? Interesting.
Well, I also think that there is a feminine energy that incorporates like compassion and beauty and strength and gentleness, and I mean feminine energy can be taken on by anybody, whether it be a man or a woman.
I mean, what's seen through a woman's eyes is different than what's seen through
it can be different. It can be different. Women's I think that a lot of women have a different perception of strength, and it's just that I don't believe that an art should be dominated by men or women. I think that different people, different genders, different races, different cultures, like people have a different lens to look through, and I think that there's see what I did there. I mean, photography to me at the end of the day is seeing the world through somebody else's eyes, and if you see it through the same set of eyes, then you're gonna have a very limited perception of what the world looks like. So to me, it's important to have as much variety as possible.
So, I'm wondering, what do you think would you say are like the best photography or photo shoots or, you know, photography jobs that you've had the opportunity to do so far? I know BDC was a huge one.
Yeah, that was fun. Shooting dancers is always fun.
Yeah. Shout out to Broadway Dance Center. Check out Emma's work for Broadway Dance Center. It's amazing.
I think some of the more interesting ones that I've shot, we shot a editorial photo shoot for the Chainsmokers.
Ooh, the Chainsmokers, guys.
Yeah, they did a collaboration with a New York brand called Our Thing, and they did all this really amazing like streetwear kind of stuff. And I shot that with a beautiful model and a very good friend of mine, Morgan Ray, who's with One Management, I think. And we went out into Bushwick and just on the fly shot pictures of this brand, and that was very fun. We actually stuck onto a construction site and shot a picture with water spraying behind her.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So then another one we did recently was for a brand here in New York, brand called Ms. Manthe Collection, which is also on my website. And we went out to Red Rock, the desert in Nevada, and shot out there with another gorgeous model, Jen Lee. So we did her whole range, and that one was published in Promo Magazine and also was accepted onto Photo Vogue for Vogue Italia.
Yay! Congratulations! That's incredible. Wow, I mean, your photography career has grown really fast. Usually people, like, when they start out in the photography business, like, they start out really small, they're just doing some test shoots, some collaborative things, but the fact that you've, like, worked with all these major brands already and that your portfolio has been, like, published in magazines, like, I think that you've really, like, you know, reach that professional level status of photography like much faster than I'd say the average photographer would.
Yeah, I mean,
what's your advice for that? Do you think that's just because of your competitive edge of already being in the industry and knowing and networking, blah blah blah?
I think it's a number of things. I think that it's all in ratio. You know, a lot of people, they build a portfolio over years, and for me and I'm heavily analytical. So for me in my first year, I did about 40 shoots. 40? 40
wow.
in my first year.
Wow.
Some were paid, most were not. And after every shoot, I would break it down and analyze it and be like, what did I like? What did I not like? What looks professional? What needs to be worked on? And then I would go away and work on that and then come back and reshoot. And
so what advice would you give for aspiring photographers, looking to get started as a photographer and be able to pursue it professionally to turn it into a career that they can financially depend on?
I would say there's nothing like hard work. It's a incredibly hard, competitive industry. Any artist's industry is incredibly hard and competitive. I would say educate yourself. Educate yourself as much as you can. There are online courses. There are YouTube courses. There's things like lynda.com. There's so much range of content that you can use to educate yourself. Study magazines, get subscriptions to magazines, test all the time, be testing your skills. Even if you feel like you have something down, keep testing. And then I would say find balance, because it's really hard to take something that you love and turn it into work. And there's this for me at least, I can only speak personally, but there was this urge to just be obsessed with it day and night, and there's a real risk that you can lose your focus and motivation. And I think it's
the passion and enjoyment of it, and you reach that obsessive state, totally. You know.
So of course, do it all the time. Shoot everything. Do it as much as you can, but find a good work-life balance where you have other things that motivate you too.
I love that. That's very good advice. Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, is there any lasting things you want to leave for the audience? What do we have? What can we expect from you in the near future? Any last tips or advice?
So I am currently focusing a little more on portraiture. So I have a shoot coming up with an amazing actor, Lev Gorin, who has a recurring role in The Americans, and a shoot with Elle Steven, who plays Mufasa on The Lion King, who's just had their 20th year anniversary. Wow. So congrats to The Lion King. Yeah. So lots of stuff coming up.
let's say if anyone watching wants to build their portfolio and they, see your work on our screen right now and they are dying to shoot with you, um, are your rates like set flat for depending on how many looks you're giving them or how many looks you're going to edit, or do you kind of have a curve depending on like what they can afford?
Right. It really depends. I have set packages, but the set packages are normally done on like a minimum number of photos, and then any additional pictures they want, they would then pay per picture. So yeah, there's normally like a minimum so that it's I have to pay the bills too.
Sure. So basically, you can adjust the package based on what they can afford.
Right.
Yeah. So if they can
there's
afford
the minimum that
this many, or if they can afford the whole spiel, then yeah. But there's something for everybody.
There's normally like the minimum that I need because I'm also paying overheads for studios and equipments, and I still study myself,
of course,
and all those other fun adulting things.
Yeah, and they need to remember that by them investing in their portfolio is only going to make them more money in the long run. So if you have better pictures, professional pictures, that's what you're using to book the jobs that are going to make you money.
I worked sometimes for a casting agency, and it's really hard to take somebody seriously if they are not taking themselves seriously. Professional headshots are extremely important because basically, like, if you're looking at a shot and it's not a professional headshot, then there's just a lack of polish to it, and there are often occasions where people will bring in actors or models just solely based on their headshots. So it's really important.
Yeah, you gotta have good photos. All right, guys. So maybe some of you will have the privilege to work with Emma in the near future. But definitely, check out her portfolio, and as she mentioned on her websites before. And again, guys, thanks for tuning in to Tools for Talent on TFT TV. I'm your host, Cheryl Martinez, and big thank you to my special guest today and good friend, Emma Wainwright. Thank you for being here.
Take me flying.